And welcome back to Sweet Yellow House, and we are here for our Friday crafts. And in case you haven't noticed, we put up our first video for our new series, so go check that out. Our first project is this little urn, and it's really cute, but I didn't really like the design of it, so I thought I'd cover some of that up with some molds. I took my Classic Elements IOD mold and some clay, and of course my my glue, and I just made some molds and I put them on there. Here you see me choosing the molds that I wanted to make, and I made several of those to work my way around the urn, and I glued those on and then held them in place with some blue painter's tape. So you've seen me do this 100 times. I use a lot of molds in my decorating and stuff because it's the quickest, fastest way to cover up things and also, you know, make things look a lot more detailed, ornate if they aren't in any way. So I really like to use molds for a lot of different things. It's just, like I said, it adds so much character and stuff to it. So I had this old pumpkin laying around, and it has seen better days, so I thought I'd add some molds to that as well. And once those were both dry, I took it outside. I took both of them outside and I painted those with the Bare Matte Black spray paint. And now I'm gonna go over the urn with some DIY white wax, and I'm just putting this on and taking it off with a paper towel. So I just work my way around the urn and make sure that I work that wax into the crevices, and then I wipe it back until I'm satisfied. Once I got the wax on to where I was happy, I took my gilding wax and I just lightly put that over the raised details on the urn. I didn't bling this out a lot. I just kind of skimmed over the top just to kind of bring that detail out. So I wanted the urn to look like it had been sitting out in my garden for a while, so I grabbed my DIY decrepit dust and I just sprinkled that around, and then I got a soft paintbrush and just kind of work that into the crevices and blowing out the extra you see here, and I'm just working that in to kind of give it a decrepit look, and that's all I did for that. So I grabbed my Oasis and my glue gun, and I'm gonna fill the urn with this green Oasis. It's dry. I know this stuff you can wet as well, but I'm not putting a live flower. I'm not putting cut fresh flowers in this, so I don't wet it. I'm just basically putting it in there to hold it in place. So I grabbed some more of this sheet moss that I have, and I'm just tearing the edges off to make it fit more in a round shape to fit on top of that urn. I grabbed the U pins, floral pins, and I'm just pinning that down. So once I got that all set where I wanted, I got some black paint and I'm just mixing that up with some baking soda, and I'm doing this fairly thick because I want to add some texture on the pumpkin that I have already painted black, but there's a lot of nicks and things on this pumpkin that the black paint just kind of brought out more, so I'm using that paint to kind of disguise those you know, scratches and mars and things like that that were on the pumpkin. So I took this stem off of a different pumpkin, and I decided that the stem that was originally on the pumpkin was kind of yucky, and you could see here, and just small. It didn't have really any character to it, so I got a different stem off of a different pumpkin, and I gilded that, and I just cut the bottom part off because my pumpkin was really hard, and I just thought I don't want to try to cut into this after I've already done all this painting and molding and stuff, and potentially mess it up. So I just cut the little part that goes into the pumpkin off, and then I just glued that into place with my glue gun. There I'm just touching up some of the black paint that I nicked off while I was gluing that stem down. So now that I have all my elements done, I'm grabbing some dried floral, and I'm gonna put everything together, and this is basically gonna be my flowers for my entry table. Instead of doing like a floral arrangement, this is kind of gonna take the place of that. So I did grab my gilding wax, and I gilded the detail on that pumpkin, and now I'm just sticking that pumpkin into the top of the urn. I left a space there when I was adding all the flowers and stuff, because I knew I was going to put that pumpkin in there like it was growing out of that space. So the pumpkin actually had some stuff, like little pins and stuff at the bottom of it, because it was in a different flower arrangement from before. I grabbed that from the Goodwill and stuff, so it already had the picks in the bottom of it, so it was easy just to stick it down in there. So I put a little beware poison sign in there because that's kind of what it reminded me of, and I just added some greenery and a green bow and a little skull resin piece to the bow, and that's it for that. So my second project, I had this big green pumpkin, and a couple of weeks ago I put this transfer from IOD on there, and I'm not sure where my mind was going with this, but I put the birds on there and then I just kind of left it. So I wanted to get back to it and kind of finish my thought on that. So I grabbed this crackle medium. This is the second time I'm using this medium, and this is the second time that it did not work for me. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong with it. Maybe because I'm going over it with wax, waiting for that to crackle, and it's not. It's just made for paint, but obviously I didn't want to paint over it. So excuse me. Once I got that crackle medium on there and let it dry, I went back with some antiquing wax mixed with water, and it kind of gives it like a sticky feel. So dragging that wax on there, it was sticking. It just made it really sticky. It was kind of weird. So I didn't want it that dark, so of course I grabbed a baby wipe, and I'm just kind of bringing that back. So I didn't get any cracks, so I decided to get a stamp that I had and my IOD black ink, and I'm gonna use this crackle stamp to give it some crackling look. So I just used my ink and inked it down, and here you see me putting more ink on my pad because I thought it was still a little bit too dry. Hindsight, I should have not done that because then it made it way too dark and it just looked very artificial. So you see here I put it on and then I'm like, ew, and I wipe it back. I wipe it off. So I'm gonna try it again, but I'm gonna use a way lighter hand, and I'm just gonna do really quick, soft presses on there, and this works out a lot better. I then went back with the baby wipe and just kind of took it back, and then I went over it with the antiquing and water mixture just to kind of bring it back. I did go back in with some brown, light brown ink, and did a couple of stamps in that just to kind of give it some variation. It came out really cute. It looks really nice. It's a little different take on a fall pumpkin. I thought it was a really cute, different look for that. So my final project is this wire basket that I've had floating around my house for, I don't know, a year or so. I've used it in different, like, here and there things, but there was just never really anything too special about it, so it just kind of floated around. So I grabbed a piece of scrap burlap, and I'm grabbing my drop cloth, and I'm just measuring out here a piece, and I'm just tearing that because I want some of the ragged edges to show through, so that's why I'm tearing it through. So when I cut the burlap to size, because here's a little bit too big, you see I'm kind of measuring it, I cut it, and then what I do is I fray out the edges by pulling some of those threads out. So you'll see here I'm pulling them out just to kind of give it more of a frayed edge around, which was easy. And then I'm measuring the burlap a little bit smaller, the drop cloth a little bit smaller to fit inside of that burlap. And you saw I had like a file board just to kind of help me fray out those edges. So I grabbed my IOD stamps and my black ink and an ink pad, and letterpress, I think, is the stamp set name, and this is new for me. I just got this in the other day. I've seen so many people use it, and it just goes, it goes with so many different projects that you could do and use it for. So there you saw I was sanding it, because when you use it for the first time you have to sand just to scuff it up so it grabs the ink. Not a whole lot, but just some. So that's what I was doing there. And then I inked up my letters and I just stamped there. I've said this before, I'm not great at stamping, but if you're not good at stamping and you're just trying out, I would say, like, try stamping first on fabric, because it really does, it's a lot easier. It doesn't slide around, you don't have to, it just is more forgiving and helpful to have that kind of rough texture, so till you get used to stamping. And it's a really great look. Stamping on drop cloth or any kind of fabric is just, it's a great look. So, and it's easy to do. So I have enjoyed it, and I'm stamping a lot more. I like to say I am stamping a lot more and doing a lot more crafts with my stamps. You know, we always buy them and then they just kind of sit there because we're afraid to use them. And I've had those projects where they've kind of slid around everywhere, which kind of makes me gun shy. But here I made a little sign for the basket, and I thought it came out really cute. So I made this for my kitchen to throw some little pumpkins in for my little nieces when they come over. They like to play with stuff like that. So there it is there. Thank you for watching and spending your time with me. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It helps my channel grow and lets me know that you guys like the content that I'm putting out. So until then, we will see you next Tuesday.